Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today, our guest to you is coming from Sydney. Both Brentos and I have never actually met this guy before, so we're really looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better and hoping that you guys will enjoy it as well. He's a first-degree black belt under Phil Grapsis, who we recently had on. He trains at Higher Jiu Jitsu in Sydney, and he is John Smallios. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Really looking forward to getting to know you and hearing a bit about your journey. So tell us a bit, firstly, tell us about Higher Jiu Jitsu. Where are you? Give the gym a plug, mate. Tell us about that.
Well, Higher Jiu Jitsu, we're in Woolloomooloo in Sydney. And
nice spot.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome here. It's just out of the CBD on the outskirts. So it's a nice little about 10-minute walk from Sydney's CBD. And here at Higher Jiu Jitsu, I've thought about this. We help everyday people build quality of life with Jiu Jitsu. So we're not the school that, aims for world championships. We take everyday average Joes, like the mums and the dads and the professionals and the lawyers and, the workers and all of that and kids as well. And we help them. The goal is to flourish in life with the use of jiu-jitsu, through the vehicle of jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. That's how I think we do things here. That's the goal anyway.
So the majority of your students would be hobbyists, you'd say? Yeah,
mostly hobbyists. We have a handful of boys and girls who like to compete and who compete on the regular. But they do it to have fun. They do it to challenge themselves and push themselves, and always looking to improve and improve on ourselves with that. But I don't think they have aspirations to be world champions, just for fun, really.
So being a first-degree black belt then, John, what lessons in life have you sort of brought into jiu-jitsu? So if your mantra is kind of like we're making people better, how has jiu-jitsu helped you create the life that you want, mate?
Well, that's a question. Man, I started jiu-jitsu at a funny time. I just started university, and I was always looking to get into a combat sport, and I tried a bunch of boxing and did a little bit of karate back in the day. That didn't last for too long, and then tried to do boxing, and then I couldn't find a gym that would take me, hold my hand, and teach me the art of boxing. Really, it was just like boxercise classes or just didn't get much success there. And so I was always curious. I'd always be watching boxing. I was a wrestling fan as a kid, and I wanted an outlet to learn how to fight, to learn how to not so much defend myself. I was interested in fighting and pushing myself athletically. And I watched The Ultimate Fighter back in the day with Kenny Florian and Diego Sanchez and Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner, the first season. And that got me super hooked, and I loved what I was watching there. And a few of them were specialists in jiu-jitsu. And I was like, what the hell is jiu-jitsu? And I had a look, and I Googled, and I found a school next to my my university. And what started off as a hobby, just very quickly turned into a super passionate mission to get to the bottom of jiu-jitsu. And it changed my life, man. It took me into places that I never thought I'd be. Never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be running a jiu-jitsu academy. I was supposed to go to uni, and I was studying law and finance, and my dad wanted me to be a refrigeration mechanic and take over his business. And I had all these thoughts about what should I do with my life, and then fell headfirst into jiu-jitsu. And I just never looked back. It was a sole mission to do this stuff, really. So to your question about, what's life, I guess missions, what it's helped me do, it's honestly as I said, as a kid, I was very unsure about what to do with my future. I'd read a book as a kid. I was about 17, 18. It was called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Yep.
and he was saying, find your treasure. You got to find your treasure. And I always wanted to do something that I really loved. I wanted to wake up every day and enjoy what I was doing and enjoy my life. I didn't want to be sucked into a job that I didn't like. And thanks to jiu-jitsu, I've got that now. I wake up and I can't wait to get to work and, jump on the mats and help the crew. And I actually love doing all the admin and the emails and running the school and doing the marketing. Like, it's everything that I've ever wanted to do. So what it's taught me is to just chase your dreams, really, as corny as that sounds, and don't stop until you're absolutely delighted with what you're doing. That's where I'm at.
So how did Higher Jiu Jitsu come about for you then? Like, how did you make that transition from, starting Jiu Jitsu, falling in love with it, to then becoming an academy owner?
And so, I started, 2007, 2008 it was. And as I said, fell head over heels for it. And within 6 months, I'm like, I need more of this. So I decided to pack up my bags. I lied to my mum, told her that I want to go to Brazil and meet up with a friend over there, a Brazilian mate. And I used him as a bit of an excuse to go over there. And my ticket was for 6 weeks, but I knew I wasn't coming back for a long time. And I spent 6 months over there. I stopped uni and told my mum after 6 weeks, I said, "Hey, mum, sorry, I'm not coming back. It's a one-way ticket." Because I just really wanted to get things done. Really, I just wanted to train and learn, and I enjoy the culture of Brazil as well, and just really loved everything about it. And I came back and finished my uni degree and all of that. And my goal was to compete. My goal was to fight in MMA and bring it all together with the jiu-jitsu and start, with the boxing. I was doing a bit of kickboxing and boxing then, but jiu-jitsu was the main passion. And the goal was to fight MMA and compete really heavily in jiu-jitsu and get really good skills first in jiu-jitsu and then transition. And when I think it was 24, 25 maybe, I was a purple belt. It was my second tournament as a purple belt. And won my first two. It was in a little event. It was a local tournament. Won my first two matches. In the third match, I was winning. Everything was all good. And ended up, I was in a turtle position. And rather than having a seat belt with the knee side arm over the shoulder, I had my far side arm over the shoulder, which isn't something that I'd ever do again. And as the guy went to escape the position, I pulled him in and I just completely tore my shoulder and tore everything in there. I liken it to like getting a newspaper and just tearing it for about 8 to 10 seconds. That's what it sounded. I heard it. I could hear every little part of it. And funnily enough, I realized, like, looking back, I'm like, if I had just stopped, if I had heard a tear and just stopped, it might not have been so bad. But I wanted to win that gold medal, and I was fighting the guy really hard, and I was very tenacious in my jiu-jitsu, and I kept holding on to the guy so he doesn't escape my bloody turtle position, and just completely destroyed my shoulder. And anyways, I won the medal. Took the gold medal home, but I left my shoulder on the mats. It wasn't, could hardly drive home that day. And for the next couple of days, it was not getting better. So I went to the physio, got an MRI done, and the radiographer called the physio, and the physio called me, and he goes, "John, man," he goes, "this radiographer never calls me to report back on shoulders." He called me back. He goes, "Your shoulder is absolutely smashed. It's one of the worst shoulders he's ever seen. You're going to have a long, long road back to recovery from this." He goes, I go, "Oh, what do I do next?" He goes, "Go see a surgeon, go see this guy." So I went and saw the surgeon a couple of days later, and he goes, "Mate, 100% surgery." He said, "Okay, no worries." I go, "How long before I'm back into jiu-jitsu?" And he goes, "Jiu-jitsu," he goes, "you shouldn't ever do a martial art, any kind of combat sport ever again. Your shoulder is absolutely trashed. I can only do so much to fix it, but it's a degenerative issue now. It's becoming arthritis," because what I did was I tore all the cartilage off the bone, like all of it.
Wow.
And so, he went in, he did the surgery, cleaned up the shoulder, but he left me with arthritis. He gave me the cartilage in a little container on my way home from the hospital, and I was like, "Yeah, thanks. I wish that was back in the shoulder, but it's not." And so that led me on about 6 months of no training. After that process, after the 6 months, I thought I was pretty buff before the injury, and after 6 months and a shoulder immobilizer, like my shoulder and my arms were like the size of my wrist, like all the way through. And um, it made me realize I tried to go back after 6, 7 months. I tried to go back and do what I was doing, and it was obvious that it was a very tough thing. It was the environment that I was in wasn't really conducive to coming back from an injury like that. The Kimuras kept coming. I was like, boys, please no Kimuras, please no Americanas, and that got forgotten after about 30 seconds of grapples.
Yeah.
You know, it was no longer a question of which competition I could compete in. It was more like, should I even be doing this anymore? Because my shoulder is absolutely ravaged, and I want to be able to hold my kids. I want to be able to, put plates. It's actually hard for me now to put plates up in the top shelf. Like I need to do it with my left arm, or it's just my shoulder's done. Like my shoulder's pretty done. So yeah, it
So
left me
did
with
you have the surgery, John, or no?
yeah. I had the surgery for sure.
But it
Um,
still gives you issue.
yeah, because cartilage doesn't grow back is what I learned. I didn't know this beforehand, but soft tissue repairs, tendons, ligaments, muscles, they repair, bones repair. But cartilage is a little something that there's no blood that goes into that, and cartilage lines all the ends of the bones, and it acts like padding. So I completely tore off all the cartilage, and now what I'm left with is just bone on bone. So he told me after 5 years I'll be back for a replacement if I don't change my ways, and it's been 12 years, and I still haven't gotten a replacement. But I'm thinking it's on my mind because no matter what kind of physical therapy I do acupuncture every few weeks just to deal with the pain, and there's just the range of motion is completely gone. There's like bone spurs in there, and it's just a big mess. Um, so it left me with like one shoulder pretty much, and a life, a life altering injury is what that was. And
Yeah.
it set my as funny as it is, I mean, like to tell other people my shoulder got injured, like it doesn't sound like a big deal, but for me it was a big moment because I wanted to fight in MMA, and
Yeah.
that was completely long gone. Like those dreams were like they vanished pretty quick, and now it's a matter of like can I have a grapple without immense pain tomorrow? um, and that set me off like on a very big different path, from wanting to be a competitor and an athlete to suddenly now it's like, well, I was struggling to kind of do that, and I needed to make a change. And didn't know I love jiu-jitsu, as I was saying, like it was my absolute passion. I didn't want to move away from it, but suddenly like somehow an opportunity came up, and I was in Greece on a holiday, and I had a good friend of mine. We became friends, and he was he heard how passionate I was about jiu-jitsu. I was, talking his ear off about it the whole time. And he said, John, he goes, I work at the PCYC in the city. He goes, you haven't shut up about jiu-jitsu for the past few weeks. It's obvious that it's what you love to do. He goes, why don't you come and check out our facility when you come back to Australia? Uh, there was a Gracie Baja that used to operate out of this PCYC here. And they'd been done. They went and found a bigger space for themselves, and it was an empty room, and it was right in the middle of the city. So I came in, I met up with Johnny the day, when we got back to Australia, and I came in and had a look, and it was a beautiful room, and I thought, wow, this could be an opportunity. I've always wanted to run a school, but I wanted to start the school when I was after my multiple world championships. That was in my mind. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go out and win the medals and all that first, and get some credentials, and then jump in and start my academy. But it all just it just accelerated. So I found the space. That was 10 years ago. I came in here, had a look,
Wow.
and I thought, let's do it. It's in the middle of the city. I didn't want to run an academy. I was a purple belt at the time. I didn't think I had enough to share. Didn't think I knew enough about jiu-jitsu to share. So I started what we called the jiu-jitsu commune. And the commune was supposed to be an open mat where practitioners from all schools and all affiliations can come in and have a train and just learn and share the moves together and have fun on the mats. And yeah, 10 years ago, Jiu-Jitsu Commune started, and we've evolved very much since then. But that was the beginning of it, really.
Mate, what a story, eh? Like that's it's crazy. It's so it's so interesting when you hear people talk about those types of injuries. And I think that's a little bit of like what you're saying, what's jiu-jitsu taught you? It's like in life, right? And part of it might be um, there's more, like our coach, Link, always talks about there's more than one path to the top of the mountain. So,
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to open a gym, perhaps. You were just going to have more medals on the wall,
Yep.
but like, it's just made you do it. And instead of getting to the world podiums, you've just had more teaching experience over the last 10 years. So yeah, that's a super interesting. I think my question, John, is we see and you see and Kim sees all the white belts that come in like they are in deep. They buy the rashes, they get the YouTube videos, they watch the Instagram reels. They are in, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain that passion for such a long period of time? Because it wanes, yeah. Like we've all seen people come and go. You're like, oh, this guy's in. Like this guy will for sure be there forever. And then 2 years later they're gone. You don't see them again. So how was it for you, like keeping that passion alive for such a long period of time?
Man, I've always been a passionate guy. Like if at school, if I liked the subject, I'd fall head first into it. And if I didn't like it, you couldn't pay me to work on it, to do it. That's why
Right.
I hated law school so much because I hated studying law. I hated that degree.
Yeah.
And so I'd always just piss off to jiu-jitsu for those lectures and tutorials. Like, but the things that I love, I'm there for it really. And I don't know, I've never really had a problem with the passion, to be honest. Like it's been what,
Yeah.
16 years odd, however
Yeah.
long it's been. And, the fire's always burnt a lot for me, on the mats. I feel like, I have a bunch of white belts that come in too, and they're really into it at the beginning. And sometimes I tell them just to slow down a little bit,
Mm.
just take it easy. Um, I think it's important to maintain balance in life as well. And I've never had the balance really, and I've always just been into jiu-jitsu. But for an everyday person, again, like an everyday person can't just drop everything they're doing and just commit to the mats 100% of
Yeah.
the time. So I think this is a lifestyle. Like for me, it's not really
Yes.
it's a sport to some degree. It's a martial art to some degree, but I think it could be both of those things. And for me, more than anything else, it's a lifestyle. So that means every day I'm thinking about when I'm going to jump on the mats. When I'm going to brush my teeth, when I'm going to hang out with my kids, when I'm going to jump on the mats. And for me, it's teaching, but it would also hopefully be training as well. Yeah, I just tell people to like slow it down because it's a slow and steady race, and you find that the people who manage everything else with their jiu-jitsu tend to have the best time with this stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I deal
Just
with that.
before Kim jumps in, we had grading a little while ago, and I got interviewed after the grading, and the guy
Wait, you
said,
got your black belt, right?
"I got my purple belt. Got my
Oh,
purple
right.
belt.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you,
Awesome.
appreciate it." Um, and the guy turned around and he just said, "Give me one word for what jiu-jitsu is for you." And that word lifestyle was the word that I actually used.
Wow.
So yeah, it's nice to hear you say that too, John.
Yeah. I've really thought about that word. And it's funny, like in the jiu-jitsu community, you've got a dichotomy between, you got the sport guys, who are always like chasing the medals, and then you got the self-defense guys who, I don't want to say paranoid, but who are always wondering when the next fight's going to happen. And uh, we live in, you guys live in Melbourne, I live in Sydney, and I was in a fight back in when I was 18, and that was because my mate was talking smack and managed to get us all into a big punch on. And since then, like I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and looks for trouble.
Yeah,
So I want to know how to defend myself. I have 3 kids. There's no doubt in my mind. I need to know how to defend myself and my family. Um, but it's not really why I do it.
yeah,
The medals, with one shoulder now, like they're not really my focus anymore. It's not the priority. And so I've realized, like, what is high jiu-jitsu? what are we here for? Like, where's our place in this? I don't know, in this environment. And I feel like we really do lifestyle jiu-jitsu, where I want our members to know how to defend themselves in a street situation. And it was, at work, at the workplace, when someone's, having a go at them, or, when at the train station, when anything comes about. I want them to be able to go to grappling industries and hold their own and win the matches and do what they have to do. More than anything, I want us to use this stuff as a lifestyle and use it as the vehicle to flourish in our everyday life. So, high jiu-jitsu for us is lifestyle jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, awesome. Getting back to your story, John, like it strikes me so much that like actually that shoulder injury that you got kind of led to all of this. Like in a way, if you had stopped, like you said, and not let the shoulder tear the way it did, I wonder if things would be different for you. You would have continued on your competition path and maybe you wouldn't have ended up here. Do you ever use sort of some of that in your teaching or in your helping of your students as well to explain to them how things go?
Yeah, it's something that I've always thought about. Like, because I was such a, like, I was on the mats 24/7, or as much as I could, as close to 24/7 as I could. So, finding a missus and a wife that was not on my priorities, hanging out with my mates, to be honest, like from school, like that fell by the wayside. It was always just, any time I was on the mats, just training and practicing for the next tournament. And I always think, like, if I hadn't torn my shoulder, where my life would have gone. And after those 6 months when I couldn't go to jiu-jitsu every night, somehow I managed to find my missus, and now I married her after like so many years, and now we've got 3 kids together. And I'm certain that wouldn't have happened if I had jiu-jitsu in my life at that time, because I wouldn't have had the time or energy to devote to that, to let anything kind of develop. And the funny thing about that is, with that firsthand experience, I ended up, starting the commune and kind of split from my previous teachers. Nothing real bad happened, but it just wasn't where I was at the moment. And then, had another teacher as a brown belt, and then I met Master Pedro Sauer, and it was a chance encounter. One of our old students said, "Hey," they were listening to how I was talking on the mats and how I was trying to teach, and they said, "Hey, John, you should really go to a Pedro Sauer seminar. He's in Bondi next week on a Wednesday. You should really go, because I think you're going to like his material." And I went onto the mats. It was at Eagle MMA in Bondi, and I didn't know Pedro Sauer, because I'd previously been all into sport jiu-jitsu, and I knew, all the world champions, and I knew Roger Gracie, and I knew Andre Galvao, and I knew like Buchecha, and I knew all like the Mendez brothers and all the guns of sport jiu-jitsu, and the old school kind of Gracie jiu-jitsu stuff. I had no idea about it. I didn't even know it existed, really. So I'm like, who's this Pedro Sauer? What can he teach me? Which medals has he won? And I go to that seminar, and the moment I meet him, like immediately my heart opened to him. I was like, I was late, actually. I was a bit silly, and I was being late. And I was worried. I'm like, he's a coral belt. I'm going to be late to his seminar. Oh, no. And he just greeted me at the door with a handshake and such a warm smile. I'm like, wow, this guy's awesome. And that seminar, he was talking about the fact that he's had, I don't know, like 8 surgeries on his right arm and 6 surgeries on his left arm. His knees are all busted up. So he can't do this. He can't lift his elbows up. I'm sure people are listening and not just watching. He can't lift his elbows up, so he has to do jiu-jitsu like a T-Rex, So he was showing how his arms are like a T-Rex. And he went off on a 3-hour seminar sharing all the most beautiful mechanics, and like using his legs and using his hips and not forcing things and not pushing with his upper body too much, because that's like the weakest part of your body relative to your legs. So he introduced me to a kind of jiu-jitsu that I've never really seen before. And the ethos that he had behind it was the idea of, you have to do it with your bones when your muscles don't work, when you don't have the strength, when you don't have the abilities physically, then you have to be able to use that leverage and use the ground. and it was like music to my ears, and it was everything I needed to hear at that particular moment, because I was on the verge of quitting, because I couldn't
Yeah.
sustain, like, high level training anymore, because
Yeah.
the Kimuras, the Americanas, like the pushing, the like anytime my elbow doesn't go up, and if it does go up, I'm tapping, like, because
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it hurts the ego sometimes, but it's just what I need to do in order to stay on the mats. Um, so maybe if I hadn't been injured, I might not have been so receptive to Pedro Sauer's message. But when I did hear that message, I was absolutely sold on it. And I was running an academy, I was running the commune, and didn't really know where it was going. And so with that being said, I met Pedro on that seminar, and I met Phil was there as well. And that's when we actually hit it off and became good mates after that seminar. And, after a couple of phone conversations with him, we decided to affiliate with the Pedro Sauer Association. And I really haven't looked back, because I met a group of people who were not so much, they weren't chasing medals. They were doing the lifestyle jiu-jitsu that I was looking for. And they were doing it in such a beautiful way, with where finesse was a priority for them. Like, not just what they did and what they won. It was like how they did things, and not only how they did things, but how they taught it to other everyday people, people who aren't world champions, people who aren't, young and juicing and, wanting to smash the next tournaments. And, it was all about the most a beautiful, effective way of doing jiu-jitsu that was able to be reached by everybody. So yeah, I was all in from there. And since that seminar, actually, I'm a Pedro Sauer black belt now, and forever thankful for it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Did you have a question there, Kim?
Well, I was going to ask you about your black belt. So tell us about that day, about when you got your black belt. Did you know it was coming? Like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, as I said, like, I started Jiu-Jitsu Commune as a purple belt, and there's little parts of this story. Like, I was doing the commune, and again, there wasn't too much direction with it, and wifey at the time was saying, "Mate, where's the money coming? Is it going to start coming in or not?" And I didn't know what was happening. I thought maybe I had to just let it go and get a real job. And then, funnily enough, Steve Maxwell. You guys familiar with Steve Maxwell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got a random phone call one morning, and I was actually stressing about the class. Like, shit, what am I going to teach? I didn't have a curriculum. I was always on YouTube, like, and I knew moves, but I didn't know the moves well enough to teach the moves to people that had never trained before, or who had trained, like the purple belts and brown belts. And I was a purple belt myself, and there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. So I was doing my absolute best to prepare adequately for the classes. And that meant like, scrambling through YouTube and trying to look up videos and things like that. It was a bit of a mess, to be honest, towards the end. It started fun, but it became pretty rough. And then Steve Maxwell came in one day. He just gave me a random phone call. I said, hey, I'm Steve Maxwell, 5th degree black belt under Helson Gracie. I said, oh, shit, I know who you are. Of course I know who you are. I've been following him. I've been reading his blogs for years. I followed his son, Zach Maxwell, who was tearing up the competitive scenes back then. He goes, I'm in town. He goes, I'd love to come for a training session. I see you're a purple belt. He goes, I can run your class if you like. If you'd like that, I'd more than happily love to share my training. And I said, oh, man, of course, no doubt. And so he came in, and for a few months he was staying in Sydney, and he took over my classes. And from having 2 and 3 and 4 people on the mats, suddenly there were 20 people on the mats coming for Steve Maxwell. And a bunch of those people stayed and became our students here. And after that 4 months, it was the year after, Steve came back a year after, and he presented me I was pretty surprised. He gave me my brown belt. And I was thankful he gave me my brown belt. And then he said, next is the black belt. But I wasn't too, like, I didn't feel like I had the skills to just, step up to black belt straight after that. And I wanted more from my jiu-jitsu journey. And it was hard to run the school just, with a textbook, and no curriculums or anything like that. So that's when, as a brown belt, I met up with Phil and Pedro. So I was a brown belt under those boys for about 4 years, I think it was. And I had to completely change my jiu-jitsu with brown belt. I had to learn a whole new curriculum from the white to blue. I had to learn the blue to purple. And suddenly like a brown to black belt self-defense curriculum. And as I said before, like I'd never known anything to do with self-defense.
Yeah.
So it was a whole new, like, it's like I had to rewire my brain. But after 4 years, Phil gave the recommendation to Master Pedro, and what was it, 2019 it was, and I had a room, I had about 100 people in a little room here, had my family around me, my wife around me, and all of my students, and did the test, and Phil strapped it up on me and choked me, and Professor Sauer choked me, and it was a surreal experience. I couldn't have dreamed of a better way of getting my black belt than that. So that was 2019, and yeah, just been going since then, really.
Awesome.
Mate, what a memory, eh? It's
It was,
it's amazing the jiu-jitsu journeys that people have. You know, like your whole story so far has just been like sliding doors moments, right? Like you go
yep,
this way and this happens, or you go that way and that happens. You know, could have been a world champion, but now you've helped countless people, you know, be stronger in their lives and in their beliefs, and you know, become more confident and all those sorts of things. Like I love those sliding door moments. I think it's we've all had them, you know, and you look back on them and you go, yeah, I wonder what if. But
yep,
usually for me, I know the paths that I've ended up on have definitely been better paths than the ones I was traveling on, right?
yep,
So,
yep.
mate, I think that's awesome. And like I love a good black belt story. So, mate, congratulations. I think it's a winner. It's really good.
Thank you very much. And it's just like I just love representing these fellas. You know, it's
Yeah.
not just a black belt. It's like I respect everything about Master Pedro. I respect him as a person. I respect him. His jiu-jitsu is on another level to anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Phil's my good mate, my mentor. We hang out. Like, you know, he's helped me with my school. It's never been. That's why I love these guys, because it's never been about the money for them. It's been
Yeah.
about Phil's become a mate, really, and he helps me with all the little ins and outs and the problems that I have at the school, and you know, the
Yeah.
advice that he gives me. And he's a few steps ahead of me, and that's awesome. So on the mats he helps me, off the mats he helps me, and he's become a good friend and mentor. And I'm just so happy. Like it's an absolute honor to represent them.
Give us a Pedro Sauer story, mate. Give us a Pedro Sauer story.
There's plenty of stories there. Um, Man, it's just like, honestly, like just being next to him and
Yeah.
just listening to him, and um,
How does
he
his
got
jiu-jitsu feel? How did like, you know, I've had people sort of sit there and say that they've rolled with just different, you know, whether it's coral belt or high level black belts. Some of the Machados who have come out and done seminars, you know, like Carlos Machado, who's come out. I've heard people just sit there and just say like that jiu-jitsu just felt different. You
yep,
know, they've rolled with elite black belts, but I'm like that jiu-jitsu just felt different. Is that what it's like with those guys for you?
yeah, most definitely. It's also intelligent, you know, and people say, you know, it's the jiu-jitsu is where the smaller person is a tool where the smaller person can, you know, defend themselves against a big, stronger, faster, uglier person. And, you know, back in the day, it didn't really make sense because, you know, we had weight divisions, and me as a blue belt trying to beat up a 120 kilo blue belt, that was tough, you know, and
Yeah,
the jiu-jitsu wasn't helping me then.
yeah,
But it's all these little, more than anything, Master Sauer talks about finding leverage using your bones. And I'd never really understood that beforehand. And if you understand like bones are, it's hard. It's
mm,
what's they're what kind of like they don't have any expiry in terms of their energy,
yeah,
right? So you could squeeze something for about 10 seconds before your muscles start to give way.
yeah,
Bones, just like, you know, brackets and just like, you know, pillars, are
yeah,
designed to support. And if you put the bones in the right position relative to the ground and relative to your opponent, then you can start um, like you don't have to hold on to people's weight, you know. So for me, what Master Pedro helped me realize is that there's always an easier way, and you're still using your body, but you're using the ground more than anything as well. One story that Pedro gives, if you go to one of his seminars, you've probably heard it before. He goes, hey, my friend, he goes, do you know how to lift up a car? Can you lift up a car? And he goes, lift up a car? I can't lift up a car. What are you talking about? And he goes, a white belt. He goes, you tell a white belt, you tell someone who doesn't do jiu-jitsu to go lift up a car, and they're going to come underneath it and they're going to try to lift it and they're going to fail. You tell a white belt, he might bend his knees a little bit, keep his back straight, trying to lift it, and he can't lift it. He goes, go ask a black belt to lift the car. The black belt's going to say, yeah, no worries. He's going to come out with a jack. He's going to put the jack underneath the tire. He's going to go like this, and the car comes up. And just that idea there, Master Sauer has helped me understand like how to apply jiu-jitsu. The path of least resistance is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's on the mats, but I think more importantly, becomes off the mats as well, where there's always a path of least resistance. And it's up to us as martial artists in order to look for it, to assess the situation and to see where you'll always have many different ways of doing something. And as Link says, right, it's like there's many paths up to Mount Fuji, but there's an easier path and there's a harder path. And I guess that what we're doing here is trying to find the easier path. And maybe when you're 20, you've got lots of strength and lots of energy and it's just almost limitless and you can run through walls. You actually do want to run through walls, but as you get older and as you get more broken, then you really need to dedicate some of your attention to doing things easier and to doing things with less effort. And so that's what I get from Master Sauer more than anything.
And how has it been, not so much now, but say a few years back when you were still kind of learning the ropes, doing that kind of on your own without having Master Sauer or Phil kind of right there with you, like in the same room and stuff like that? Like, how did you find that coaching without having that mentor quite so close?
It was tough. And again, I had that passion and that was pushing me through it. But, there wasn't much structure in the school and I was trying to get structure. Like I created my own curriculum and I was, linking videos to the curriculum, but just found like it was, I was a purple belt and I wasn't, I'd won tournaments, but I wasn't at the level of trying to teach other people jiu-jitsu. And it was just a very, very big task. And more than anything, the way we'd run it at the beginning was as the commune. It was just an open mat where people got to come in and train. That was all well and good. But the problem was when a newbie would rock up and walk into the room and would say, hey, I've never trained jiu-jitsu before. Teach me. And I was like, oh, shit, because grapple, tell them to grapple. Like you had to teach them what a hip escape was. And so therein became the whole thought process for me. Okay, how do I guide a complete newbie and how do I get them to learn in the, in the best way, in the most efficient and the most effective way possible. And that was difficult because I then had a responsibility to the existing students to kind of let them get their training in and help them develop. And then I had a responsibility to the new students who started coming on board. And it just made it really tough to navigate. So it was tough. It was a bit chaotic at the time. And then trying to have another job at the same time and, working on the financials and seeing if it was all worth it. It was tough. So I feel for the people who are by themselves because when I jumped on with Master Sauer and Phil, I felt like I had decades and decades of experience behind me. And what Phil said and what Pedro said at the beginning, they said, here's the curriculum, teach the curriculum. And I was a little bit critical, if I'm honest, at the beginning, because back in my first school, the curriculum for us and the test for us was just what you did to cram before grading week. Shit, fuck, there's a grading coming up. I need to learn the moves. And so, you take out the curriculum and you try to memorize the moves for the grading next week. And then hopefully, the teacher wasn't watching your shabby technique on the moves you never used, and you got your belt. And so that's what I knew what a curriculum was. But then when Phil and Pedro gave me their curriculum, it helped me realize that it's an equalizer, because the lawyer who's never had much training before and the athletic 20-year-olds suddenly have something similar to work towards. And of course, a 20-year-old can take that learning and build on it and go compete with it and, throw in other moves on top of that. But the lawyer is still on the same path as as a white belt to blue belt, they're on the similar path. And now there's a test. Now we still have a curriculum here. It's the Pedro curriculum, and it's accessible to anybody, and anyone can do it. It's going to take a little bit of attention, no doubt, and energy to learn and understanding, but it's going to make your jiu-jitsu better. So I think the biggest thing that I was lacking was like a proven curriculum of not just, yes, techniques. They are techniques, but they're just options. From this position, here are a few options for you to think about. So yeah, I think that's what helped me out more than anything. So now, if I'm not teaching a class, tonight I'm going to Phil's seminar in Northern Beaches, and I have one of my purple belts running class tonight.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, teach this and this and this. And now we have a video. You see Master Sauer sharing the move, and he's seen me teach it a few times, and he's seen our other coaches teach it, and he's on board. He's on board, and he has everything he needs to create a great class right now. So yeah, that's helped. It's helped so much. And I don't know if I'd still be doing this if I didn't have the boys on board behind me.
I actually think it's something that's in some places can be a little bit underutilized, where you're using people with more experience. And whether, you mentioned some of the guys before, the guys from AOJ or from Atos, these guys who are literally world champions and have been doing this for a long, long time, they do put free instructionals out or clips, and I think it's we have it with our coaches, where they will sit there and say, like, we're going to be learning this sweep from X guard, for instance, and then in the Facebook page or whatever, there will be a link to someone teaching it from AOJ. It's like, here is the technique. I'm teaching it the way that I teach it, but watch this technique. And I think it's an excellent way to do it. And I think that's part of being a very, very good coach, where you sit there and go, I don't know everything. Somebody might learn a little bit differently. So here is the technique that I'm teaching, done by people who are very, very good at it as well. And I think it's actually important to do, not sort of sit there and be the gatekeeper of information, be the funnel that lets it all go through, I suppose, right? And that's kind of what you're doing. And you've been lucky enough to do it with your coaches. So I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's almost like a benchmark. Here's the benchmark that everyone can reach towards, can work towards. And it's not limiting. Like back in the day, I thought a curriculum was limiting of time and limiting, of like, where you can go with things. But for us, it's like a minimum requirement, white to blue, know the basic stuff. And for us, I like our white to blue belt. I use it as a black belt. We all use it. Like it's just the building blocks of jiu-jitsu, really. And I like that, like there's not too much, I don't want to say the sporty stuff, but I feel like all of our techniques can be done by a 20-year-old to a 60, 70-year-old, and they don't require very much physical capability to be done. And I find it a bit interesting now. Like, I think seems like, with the internet, like, and the explosion of information for sure, but everyone, I feel like a lot of time you just got to be careful not to chase what the highest level world-class athletes are doing. It seems like, someone wins a few titles and then suddenly everybody's just chasing what they're doing. And that doesn't take into account, their athletic ability and the amount of time and energy they put onto the mats. And not to mention that a lot of the times things aren't sustainable, like, I can't roll the way, I'm sure if I put my time and effort into it, like I can't bolo like the Meow Brothers bolo, and part of me doesn't even want to, if I'm honest, because I like being able to walk, and I'm 36 and I'm not 26. I'm not old. I'm not old, but I'm also not super young anymore. And one thing Professor says is and that's what Phil said on the podcast, I think with you guys, is to look towards you being older and like work a game that's going to stay with you eternally, not where you can do with it now. I'm not planning on retiring from jiu-jitsu. That's what I'm saying. And I like to say, come in, get everything done and retire when I'm, 45 and then be done with jiu-jitsu. That's not what I'm doing. As we said, it's a lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to, I want to put most of my attention into a way of doing jiu-jitsu that's going to be sustained for as long as I'm on the mats, and I hope that's till the day we're gone. So yeah, that's what our curriculum allows for that to happen.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, we're nearly out of time. Thank you so much, John, for giving up your time today. It's been great getting to know you and learning a bit more. Do you have any final words for our listeners and our viewers?
Um, I think I've said enough, eh? I just enjoy your jiu-jitsu. Like it's such a beautiful thing that we have. And when my shoulder was done and I was in a sling for a very long time and I didn't have it, I was in tears, if I'm honest with you. And to think that I didn't have this anymore, like for it to be. Sometimes you might wake up one morning and it's taken away from you. Who knows what
Yeah.
happens? And there's a lot of things that happen that you can't predict. So I just think every day that we're on the mats is a real blessing. And my goal for it and for the students is to enjoy it more than anything, and to keep things playful, because that's going to help us sustain this art for a very long time. It's a beautiful art, and I don't know, I'm going to use it, and I'm going to use it on the mats to make my life better off the mats. And if we can, I think that's the biggest goal, really, like to use what we're doing on the mats to build a better life off the mats in all ways, at home, at school, at work. There's so many little interactions and situations that you can utilize the jiu-jitsu mindset. And I'm going to keep joining the dots between on the mats and off the mats. And you use jiu-jitsu however you like, people. But I love it, and it's my life. And we're going to keep training here and keep having fun with it. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we do some good things over here in Sydney. You guys have an epic jiu-jitsu scene in Melbourne, but we're doing pretty good over here in Sydney as well. And I'm excited to come and meet with you guys and maybe get to train one day together. And yeah,
we'd love that. We would love that.
As a requested guest or a suggested guest, actually, from Phil, you've done awesome, John. It's been really, really good to get to know you a little bit more and hear about your way of jiu-jitsu and obviously your journey through jiu-jitsu. And I think you've used a lot of really nice descriptive words, and I think some of them were two that really stuck out was love and beautiful. And I think that comes across for the person that you seem to be, mate. Like you obviously love jiu-jitsu. You see the beauty of jiu-jitsu and taking it from the mats into your life. The longer I do jiu-jitsu, the more I see these correlations between jiu-jitsu and life. So, mate, I really appreciate you pointing that out. And I think the lifestyle of jiu-jitsu is where we need to be, right? I think it's awesome.
That's it, man. Jiu-jitsu for life.
Yeah, I like it. All right, we're going to finish it there. Guys, thanks again, John, for coming on. Kim, you source these amazing guests, so you're always doing a fantastic job. We've got some T-shirts left, not many. If you would like one, shoot us a PM. That's probably the best way to do it now. But we also have a sponsorship coming up now, which we have with Fuji, and we've got some athletic soap. So that's going to be a little bit of a link in the description. So please check that out. Order your soap. We know that there's germs on the mat, so as soon as you can, you need this soap on your body. So get some. And it's the best soap around. There's an activated charcoal soap, which I really like. So we'll check that one out. But we're going to finish it there. Remember, please, guys, if you enjoy the show, like, rate, share, open another couple of accounts and share it on those accounts as well. All those numbers help us reach more people and then get awesome guests like John coming on as well. So we'll finish it there. Lifestyle Jiu-Jitsu. We appreciate it. Thanks again, John. Higher Jiu Jitsu. If you're in Sydney, get along. I'm sure that John will welcome you as this beautiful man that he is. And we will see you next time on the RoD podcast. Well done.
Thanks, Drew. Cheers, guys.